Welcome everyone to our July edition of AWE Nite LA. We are the Los Angeles chapter of the Augmented World Expo. I'm Raymond Moscow. My co-organizer is Susan Oslin. And every other month we bring you the latest installment of what's going on in the world of augmented technology. And this week or this month we're looking at the world of what we're calling future art. There's a lot of folks, especially here in LA, but even all over, that are leveraging technologies like Augmented World Expo or like augmented reality, virtual reality, the blockchain, all kinds of different wearables to into their art to be able to create these incredible interactive experiences. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. But first, why don't we tell you a little bit about the Augmented World Expo as an organization? Susan, you want to tell us a little about the org?
Yeah, hi everybody, and thanks, Ray. So this map is growing. These are all the cities around the world where AWE has a local chapter similar to ours. So because of COVID, everything is online. So there's lots of great content happening all the time. So keep your eyes posted. AWE, the conference is in person this year at Santa Clara. They moved it to the fall, November 9th through 11th. So get your tickets. Ray, could you find the code again? I think it's, well, you find it. I'm not going to guess.
We'll find it. We'll send, after the event, we'll send an email to everyone and we'll include the code there.
Yeah, if you haven't already gotten your tickets, we have a 20% discount code. We have a number of different social channels. All of the recordings from all of the events from all over the world are on YouTube. So just go to, look up AWE on YouTube. There's a weekly newsletter that Ori sends out every week. You can subscribe to that just by going to awexr.com. And then there's Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and there's now an Instagram channel. If you didn't know, AWE has an academy now, and they're doing different workshops from various professionals in the field. I was able to take the Web AR workshop, and I found it quite interesting and useful. So if you want to learn more about AR, check those out. There's also a link on the website about that. And then here's some upcoming events in other cities. The hologram one I think is New York. And then I'm not sure the Haptic X one, which city that one's from, but
I think that's San Francisco.
Okay, yeah, lots of good content. So just keep your eyes posted at any one of the social media channels. And Asia 2021, September.
The world's waking up, right? We're going back to this format. I'm sure there'll be a hybrid format kind of for a little while, but yeah, this it's an opportunity for us to really showcase these technologies all around the world.
Yeah, you were asking about in person, and I was just thinking about that tonight. Like, hey, maybe we could do September in person or hybrid.
Yeah, indeed. Just like you said, Roger. Like, I think it'd be great if we can figure out kind of a mixture of the two, both in physical as well as some sort of streaming component, so that that people can tune in from around the world. I think for us, it just comes down to engagement. Like we want everyone to be able to participate in these events. We're excited tonight. We're going to be talking about all kind of fun things, immersive, interactive, playful as it relates to technology. We have an incredible cast of panelists, all LA-based artists, talking about how they are engaging with the world of augmented technologies, leveraging things like virtual reality, blockchain, augmented reality, wearables, etc. So, without further ado, why don't we start introducing our panel? Clay, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Clay Weishar. I'm an AR content creator and spatial interaction designer based out of Venice Beach.
Cool. Dulce, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi guys, I'm Dulce Baerga. I am a technician, coder, artist, make 3D avatars and clothing and gear. Very into augmented reality and WebXR. So WebXR is my main tool that I love to push and promote. So going to talk a lot about WebXR on this talk. Yeah.
Nice. And Deidre?
Hello, friends. I'm Deirdre. Nice to see you. Thank you for all being here. I'm a VR actress, which is kind of like, there's not a lot of that happening, but it's starting to happen. I started working in the Underpresents back in November of 2019, before pandemic, before anybody even knew what it was or what was happening. And then I was doing other things as well, like a lot of immersive theater. And then the pandemic hit and all of that went away, except for VR stuff. So then I started doing it. That transitioned into the Tempest. I reached out to another company. I did Finding Pandora X in Venice last year. I had some friends come to a dress rehearsal and they loved it and wanted to do something for Halloween. So then I joined up with them and my husband, and the four of us sort of formed what's now the Ferryman Collective. And we did Para for Halloween. We did Krampusnacht for Christmas, because, you know, that's fun. It was a finalist in the PGA Innovation Awards, which was really super exciting and crazy. And then we decided to take a little time and spend a little bit more time creating something that had a little more depth. We brought in a company that had done a project in real life that I had seen called Coact Productions. We did a joint production of a play called The Severance Theory, Welcome to Respite. And that was in the Tribeca Film Festival just last, oh God, what month? Beginning of June. And it went really well. And it was a lot of fun. So I've been doing a lot of immersive VR theater as an actress and as a producer. Nice to meet you all.
Fantastic. And Pinguino, would you manage to make it back?
Hi, my name is Pinguino. I'm an immersive artist in Los Angeles. My background is in comic books, but I do a lot with pixel art, specifically an old school style of art called ANSI. I do a lot with cryptocurrency as well, and throwing Dogecoin parties and stuff like that. And my next project is with Lazarus Block, making NFTs.
Yeah, NFTs I think are right now, like they're white hot, right? Like everyone is talking about NFTs. Everyone's trying to figure out what do these three letters mean. You know, what is, you know, is this
What
how
do they mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Pinguino,
I mean,
what does
it,
yeah, why don't we start there then? Like we'll start with NFTs. Pinguino, what is an NFT?
I missed that part. You were wondering what an NFT was?
Yeah, why don't you break it down for us what an NFT is?
I'm gonna move computers somewhere else.
Right. We'll put a pin on that. We'll come back.
Okay.
I know. I mean, if you just kind of look, if you come to any of these type of events, you probably come to a lot of them, especially here in Los Angeles. There's a lot of these technology events, and I know for probably the past 6 weeks, it's been NFT this, NFT that, much like it was cryptocurrency this, cryptocurrency that, probably 3 or 4 years ago. And you know, the exciting thing is that the two, I mean, I would say there's a Venn diagram, and the two definitely overlap. But we'll go deeper in that once Pinguino comes back. Clay, in the picture, on the flyer, as well as on the Snap website, there's a picture of you wearing some pretty snazzy glasses. What are these glasses? Do you have them with you? Do you have a pair? Like, what are these glasses that I've seen you wearing?
I do have a pair, and I'm finally allowed to talk about it after feels like a year. And yeah, Snap released their new next generation spectacles, and they're fully AR wearables, lightweight, with a pretty decent field of view, you know, just the way, you know, it looks. But it's really exciting because it's like, for me, it's like I've tried other wearables and they're quite heavy, and they seem really geared towards like maybe industrial use cases. These are like, they're sunglasses, and when you put them on, you really get a sense of, you know, this is how the future could look. So I am super thankful. I had the opportunity to work with Snap's labs teams and create an experience for the next generation of spectacles. And it's, all I can say is like, the future is bright. The display.
Gotta wear shades.
Beautiful.
amazing. And I mean, I think this is like a huge breakthrough, right? Like we were expecting this from a Facebook or a Google or someone
Or
like
Apple, yeah.
that, or an Apple, right? Like the long rumored Apple head wearable, right? But I mean, literally out of nowhere, Snapchat releases this pair of glasses, form factor like a pair of sunglasses, that provide some sort of visual fidelity, right? Like you're not seeing something in a little square in the corner of your eyes. You're
Yeah.
seeing, you're seeing actual, Lens Studio or Snapchat content right there
Absolutely.
before you, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I just remember the first time I tried them on, I was invited to the lab, and I put them on, and I didn't know what to expect. Like, I'm like, is this it, or is there gonna be AR inside of these glasses? And my mouth literally dropped open, and I think the team was just like, "What's wrong? Like, what's wrong?" I was speechless because I wasn't expecting it. It just kind of came out of nowhere, and yeah, like fully functional, non-tethered AR glasses that like play very well with Lens Studio, being able to send content to the lenses, and the whole lens ecosystem all working together is like really exciting for creators. And if you're an AR creator, I would highly encourage you to go to Snap's website and apply to get a pair, because they're currently taking applications.
Yeah, I mean, let's go a little deeper in that. Clay, tell us a little bit about, you're an artist. You've been making art in all kinds of different mediums. What is it about making art in AR? I mean, this goes for everyone on the panel. Like, what is it about making art in augmented reality that is so exciting?
I think for me, what's so exciting about it is you get to create art without the bounds of physicality. So you can make things as big as possible, without, considering having to, work with architects or whatever. Like literally anything you imagine, you can make in AR. And that's really exciting from an art standpoint, to be able to just work on volumetric, 3D visuals that take on the likeness of a physical sculpture. So it's just a really exciting period, especially with wearables. Going to a gallery previously, we had to hold our device up and sort of walk around, and we that was sort of the baby steps of experiencing AR art. But with lightweight wearables, you're really kind of immersed in the experience, able to sort of walk around. And it's really unique because traditionally art doesn't have the same interaction paradigm to it. So, the experience I created in Spectacles was a spatial instrument as well as a meditation app. And when you got close to it, you could play these kind of like jellyfish, otherworldly jellyfish-like creatures. And, they responded to you with light and color and sound. And that would be pretty hard to do with other mediums. So it really kind of creates this wide open opportunity for artists to sort of explore and experiment.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the most exciting things. This idea of art is everywhere, right? I mean, it genuinely is. You can have these essentially, what is it, like an artist gallery anywhere, or you can use the environment around you as part of the art experience, right?
Absolutely, it's such a huge opportunity for artists right now, especially digital artists working in NFT. I'm currently working with Krista Kim. She did the Mars House. Created a like virtual house, and I think it sold for $500,000, this virtual house. But what we're starting to see is virtual real estate and wearables, and sort of working with Krista has really kind of like opened my eyes to the possibilities of blockchain, AR, and art.
Yeah, there's a question in the chat about the difference between experiencing art with the glasses versus, say, like through a phone, through mobile. I mean, I think this applies to a lot of other platforms as well. Dulce, you're doing a lot in WebXR, and I'm sure we'll kind of do a deep dive there. But in both of your opinions, like, what is the value of having these tiny supercomputers that we can use to engage with art everywhere?
Well, I honestly, my whole motivation of being in the AR field is to experience time machine kind of experiences, right? Like I want to go to different parts of the world and be able to get any kind of contextual information about that specific space that I'm in at from any time period, and have those experiences. And that's kind of like the big dream that I have. And I don't want to do it through this. I want it to be over my eyes. I want it to just automatically know I'm here and there's some information that I probably would be interested in, so here is that information. And I don't think the phone is something we should be focusing on for the long term at all. It should be hidden and go away, and just be in our back pocket and support the headset. And yeah, I think, being able to have augmented experiences that definitely are personalized, that you could engage with and then also change in some kind of way and leave your mark in that space. That's not ruining the space. It's not actually physically tagging a space. It's not actually putting paper on a space or leaving real objects there. So you are keeping the real world in a pristine shape, and you're not ruining the real world. But if you put the glasses on, you can have total Toontown craziness, or or have some kind of experience that other people can't have. I'm also looking forward to the user to user connectivity. So being able to have like all your friends with the headsets on, having the same experience and doing the same exact thing with each other. I think that's going to be massive when that happens. So
yeah, you can see someone walking down the street like gesticulating wildly, talking to themselves, and nowadays they have like a pair of earpods in their hands, in their ears, right? You don't realize, but soon with these type of wearables, you'll be like having a tea party with your friends while you're walking down the street, and everyone will only get to see the portion of the conversation that you were physically embodied in, right?
I'm going to digress for one quick second, but this is definitely going to really crack open the mental health world, I think, big time, because, I think the fact that people have been wearing headphones and been very like in their own personal devices, having their own little personal experiences, has definitely helped us understand like what it is to be a schizophrenic, or to be, having these different kinds of like divergent mental things. But adding a layer of augmented reality that really completely changes everything around you, like, it'll really question what it means to be mentally divergent in that way, because, everybody with augmented reality glasses will have mentally divergent experiences from everybody else, because you can turn everybody into a frog, or, erase everybody from the room if you wanted to, like that's another thing that I think is going to be pretty interesting, is blocking people in real life through augmented reality glasses, like actually hiding people from your vision.
Yeah, I've heard the term diminished reality, I think is sometimes used in regards to that, the idea of like, you don't like when the election was going on and there was all this like overwhelming kind of political propaganda, you could conceivably just like have those replaced with Coca-Cola ads or Van Gogh paintings or something like that, Also, you bring up an incredible point about the concept of mental health and how mental health can be improved, impacted, even measured as a result of these kind of virtual technologies. And, Deidre, I think what you're doing in the world of virtual performance is incredible. Do you want to tell us a little bit about, give me the name of it again.
Welcome to Respite.
Welcome to Respite, and kind of the impact, what it's like producing kind of content, going from a kind of traditional theater proscenium into virtual worlds, and then especially with the show that you just did, Welcome to Respite, kind of the impact of how mental health can be integrated into these sort of performances.
Yeah, there's a lot there, because we were just talking about like a bunch of stuff that I feel like is all relative. So I'm having come from an immersive theater background, I'm used to doing theater that is not proscenium, right? So that's what I was doing with the Under Presents, and then even Tempest is immersive, and Finding Pandora X is all there. It's all immersive because I get into a VR world and I'm like, ooh, this is sad. This is so much fun. There's all this world that we are embodying, and we were talking about the things that you can do in virtual reality that we can't do in real life. The things that turn people's faces into like frogs because you want them to be frogs, and that will be funny. We can do things like so Welcome to Respite was an in real life production. I'm just going to back up a little bit, and it was done in 2019 in August, and I saw it, and I just really loved the feeling that I had when I saw it. And there are things in the show that we can do in virtual reality that we can't in real life. So one of the things, and vice versa. So like in real life, you can eat a cookie while you're with mom, right? You can wash your hands, and then you can like help her with dinner and stuff. And in virtual reality, we can't really have them eat a cookie. It's not as satisfying. But what we can do is we can shrink them down to a 7-year-old body. So now you coming to the show as an adult can now be in a 7-year-old's body, looking up at your parents, getting that perspective again. And it's weird because your body remembers that, right? And it's hard to not be an adult at that point, because even though mentally you're an adult, your body's like, no, I'm 7. No, that's there, and there's a connection there that is beautiful and is similar to real life, but also different, because in real life, you may have a connection with another person in a room, in a performer during an immersive show. You look into their eyes and the emotions and everything else that comes with that. But you're also a little self-conscious because you're in a performance. There's maybe the other people around, and you put a headset on. There's a little bit of anonymity there that allows for some freedom that you can bring into how you act, because maybe you'll do something you wouldn't normally do in real life. Maybe you'll be a little bit more vulnerable, or say something you wouldn't normally say, or pretend like you're a kid again because you feel like one looking up at your parents. Like the affordances of VR it's so magical. We can take them up to the attic and turn on the star projector, and they're looking at the stars in the attic. Then all of a sudden the walls fall away and they're in space. And it's just like the child's imagination. The project we're doing now was inspired by stories of people with dissociative identity disorder, formerly known as multiple personality disorder. So we can weave in like some of those, symptoms of what that might be for somebody who's first starting to experience it. And it's a little bit like, but for the grace of God go I, right? A little bit like, oh, we've all had traumatic moments in our lives, and when we were younger, some absolutely way worse than others. But we can all sort of like identify with having a moment of like, is there somebody in the closet? Is there somebody under the bed? And what if that became bigger or larger than life? Like how we can easily compartmentalize that and then shove it over here, so much so that you become another aspect of your personality, because that's what you needed to do to protect yourself at that point in your life. So you're like, oh, I've had moments where I've put on my professional face, or when I've put on my silly face, or I've put on my like, oh mom, you're still my mom face, right? But we don't disassociate. But through the play, you can kind of see how there is a connection, how close it could be to it being you who might have done that, should it be necessary to protect yourself. So I sort of feel like that kind of an empathy can be created within these experiences, because you can show things that are larger than life, that are more spectacular, that are more than you could in real life. So I think there is a lot to experiment with, and certainly we want to be respectful and careful when we do that, and everything that we do, we're very front facing with, this does deal with childhood trauma. We don't actually show any trauma, but we show like the symptoms of it, and we show, ultimately it's made for entertainment, the show is, but we do want to be respectful of that, and at the end of the show, we have like in our credits room, like a mental health room, like where you can go for resources. What are the symptoms of? How are we showing this manifesting within our show? So it's just a really incredible platform to be able to experience, share, explore things that you couldn't necessarily do in real life. It's been a lovely journey.
And it's exciting, right? Because you're able to leverage, I mean, you know, bits, ones and zeros to go anywhere, be anyone. I mean, I work in the virtual beings kind of sector. I'm really excited about kind of the rise of digital avatars, you know, virtual characters, things like that, and how they're going to interact with us. You know, what you're doing, like in your performances, and you know, Dulce, I think the art you make is incredible, but also is like, you know, leveraging kind of virtual being kind of elements of it. It's so exciting to be able to like be you know, in your case, Deirdre, being able to embody anyone, right? Being able to embody a little kid, and being able to embody a mother, or, you know, have these kind of personifications of your personality that you're able to kind of put out in the world through art, or through, you know, the way you interact with people like digitally, right?
Yeah, it's kind of amazing how people do feel seen. I mean, it was one of the things that I wanted to explore with this show, because it's way more intimate than a lot of the other shows. You know, I've done moments of it in the other shows, but in this show, we really have time to sort of look at the audience member, and the audience to, you know, look back at the actor and feel seen, because there is somebody behind that avatar, and you feel their presence. It's really cool.
Yeah. Pinguino, did you make it back?
Did.
All right. I think the one underlying thread, like in regards to looking out into the future, this concept of digital identity, the kind of other like overarching concept of social virtual spaces or metaverses, you know, eventually we will have like avatars of ourselves. We will have doodads, we will have cars, spaceships, houses, things like that. And I think the one issue that a lot of people wonder is like, well, how are we going to prove that these digital items are ours? This, you know, this avatar that I have that is me is mine, and only I have it. And I think this is where kind of the blockchain and NFTs really kind of show their prominence. Let's go back to the beginning. Pinguino, can you tell us a little bit, what is an NFT, and why is this important for artists?
So an NFT is any type of digital asset that exists on a blockchain. But it could be something like a piece of virtual property, right? Like in VR, in a VR space, it could be land in a game. It could be your outfit that you're wearing for your character, or it could be a piece of art or a movie, or rights to a movie. It's kind of limitless. There's a bunch of different platforms that people are on, and they're tied to different currencies, and each of those currencies has kind of different characteristics. Ethereum is probably the most common one that you've heard people playing on, but I like to do wax ones because they're a lot cheaper and faster to use.
Yeah, I mean, I think of the movie Ready Player One, right? All the DeLorean, your magic sword, all those things. Conceivably, in that future, all those items are NFTs, right? Like they're these non-fungible objects that are guaranteed that only one person has them. You know, somewhere there is a ledger that is validating whether or not this is the original item, and that only this item exists. You know?
Yeah, especially when it comes to games, you have a lot of people buying and selling kind of aftermarket. Like you've been playing the game for a bit and you've leveled up your character's sword and you're selling an old one. You don't want to deal with PayPal and some kid scamming you, right? Things like these marketplaces that are built around NFTs that are kind of good solutions to that.
And why is that important to artists? Like, you know what, I mean, we've had digital art before, you know, like I could just sell you like a JPEG and, you know, keep that on the download, don't show it to anyone. It's put it on a disc, put it in your safe. That's yours. You know, why is this relevant? And like, what is this buzz that's going on? People selling them for millions of dollars. Like, should I be just making NFTs left and right and, you know, retire as a result of them?
I think a lot of the hype that you saw a couple months ago has died down a lot. The people, but it's still like the NFT scene is still definitely there. The people that are still making stuff are the people that are super into it, and the people are still buying it too.
Well, I've also noticed that the people who are still selling, or people who do sell NFTs, are already really established artists with a large fan base. So they have, you know, hundreds of thousands of followers, and they're like, hey, I'm going to do an NFT, dropped it on Foundation, or I dropped it on OpenSea, and then it's gone, you know. But if you don't have a huge following already and you start making NFTs, it's going to be really hard for you to get a buyer, especially if you're selling them for really expensive. So I think that's really smart of Pinguino to go on Wax, because a friend of mine, Sebastian Remy Perez, he got on Wax and he started his own kind of like little NFT person that people are remixing now. So I think that's really cool that he starts this, you know, this little blunt chain character that he made. And then now all these other people are taking the blunt chain and they're making their own versions of blunt chain. But the original source of blunt chain goes to Sebastian. So anybody who makes a version of it, he still gets a cut off of it. It's really cool. Yeah.
That's,
And go ahead, Clay.
I just did say that's really cool and a great opportunity for artists.
Yeah, when I kind of came up with the idea of this, of bringing together a bunch of artists to talk about this, NFT was kind of the core part of the conversation. And one of the things I was like one of my kind of moonshot ideas was that I wanted to figure out how to like generate an NFT and then like an NFT of the ticket of this event, and then maybe give it out to you. And I thought it was going to be, you know, prohibitively expensive, a lot of work, but we had our speaker call on Friday so everyone could meet, and I kind of shared this with Pinguino. And so over the weekend, Pinguino made a NFT of the ticket that at the end of this event, this is my Oprah moment, I'm so excited.
Under your chair.
With all of that's right. We will share with all. We will send out an email to explain how you like start a Wax account and how you can give us your account, and then we will give you an NFT for this event, so you can all have an NFT. So that's something
great.
to look forward at the end. But I mean, that being said, like, you know, this is huge, right? Like this allows you, like, you know, this has kind of been the core issue of like, say, music piracy and digital art piracy and things like that.
More than piracy. Okay, coming from a woman of color that's had to struggle her whole life to prove who she is and what she's doing, right? I think more than that, it really puts the ownership on the original creator completely, you know, and it's been a problem that we've suffered now in the music industry for decades, where people come up with a sound and that sound is stolen from them and they're never given credit for the sound. And same thing with television and film. In some cases, people don't get the royalties that they're supposed to be getting and the residual that they're supposed to be getting off of the content that they've made. You know, I've heard Chris Tucker only made $10,000 off of the movie Friday. Like, hello, why did he only make $10,000? That movie's made millions of dollars over the years, and he's not getting any residual off of it. So this changes the game completely for that, and in that way, and that's so exciting to me.
One of the exciting things about NFTs is that, I mean, being technology, being essentially code, there's this opportunity to do more with that. You know, like I understand that there are organizations that are using NFTs, or you know, to allow you to have access to like different Discord rooms, or say like you know, like even being able to have like a lifetime pass at a party. I've heard you know, Pinguino, you were telling me a story about Destructo, a DJ like offering that. Kings of Leon did it as well, where you can essentially buy this golden ticket, you know, and if you have it and you can show it at a show, that you know you get immediate access to the show, you know, and also like because of the power of the ledger in blockchain, you know, like you're saying, Dulce, like, you know, anytime there is a transaction or you know anything like that of that piece of media, there's a record, and ideally, as a result of that, the you know whatever you know piece of the price that is the royalty, whatever that is, immediately taken out of the transaction, so that the people who had the original rights to it and et cetera are able to continue to have access to you know to those residuals.
Yeah, I think my favorite part, my favorite NFT right now is a Doge Disco one, where the NFT is given to you, but it's also kind of a game. It's a Tamagotchi that you have to feed, and you make it dance and stuff, and you have to keep it happy. Otherwise, somebody can steal it away from you on the map. And I want to see more NFT projects like that, where it's not just a piece of art that somebody uploads off their archive, but it's something that's a little bit more meaningful, interactive, NFTs that can work together to build better things, you know?
Well, just using the blockchain as a tool set for the metaverse to do any kind of transaction, or just to even keep track of things, and also lock them to real items in the real space too. Like, I think that's a huge open tool set right there, especially when it comes to virtual gear and brands and shopping and, you know, patronizing different kinds of events and venues and things. You know, when you go to a place, you want to have, you know, a connection to it in a real way, whether that's a you know, an actual ticket that you get that then has some kind of augmented feature on it, or a poster that you've gotten from there that has an augmented feature that is only open, you know, you can open it through that NFT, or that there's an object in the space itself at the concert that only people who have these NFTs can now see the augmented feature off of that piece that's in the real space. You know, those kind of things I think are pretty interesting. That
or even like access to the Green Maroon limited edition t-shirt that you can only buy if you have the NFT. Like all kind. I mean, from a e-commerce perspective, there's all kinds of fun things you can do with that. Just access in general, you know. Like Deidre, I think of your performances, and I think of how exciting it would be that, you know, you have to afterwards you have this you get this NFT of the ticket, and then perhaps afterwards you can still access the virtual world that you had the performance in, because you still have that NFT. You know, you could go back and access it. You know, there's a very bright future with this technology. So
that's actually something I'm working on with an artist by the name of Tiffany Trenda, and I'm building out a hub space for her right now, so that for the LA Art Show, and we're doing a volumetric capture of her. It's going to be flat 2D video to start. We're going to eventually try to push it into a mesh volumetric, but, you know, that's really pushing Hub's capability, and it's there, but, you know, we're figuring it out. But the idea is that we're going to capture that 2D, we're going to capture the entire performance in the Hub space, capture a video of it, but also that 2D performance of her, and turn that into an NFT. So everybody who participates in the performance will get access to the NFT and be able to see these NFT performances over time. And they'll be then displayed also in a gallery in the virtual space. So like pushing those envelopes is really, you know, what I'm all about. And I think NFT is huge in that way, being able to have the experience over again, or sell a past experience in that way, you know?
Yeah, there's some conversation in the chat about how, you know, like you know, all these, we're hearing all these stories of these $1 million like NFTs and that, and how 90% of NFTs are going to be worthless. But I think the thing to really take away from it is not the value of like them individually, but the possibilities of like what they can unlock. You know, like we were talking about a little bit in the kind of pre-event chat about how, like, you know, having an NFT of this ticket stub is essentially like, you know, like going on eBay and buying like a ticket stub from like the first Coachella. You know, like the reason you're buying it is because you care about this thing and you want it and you want to be able to show it. You know, but then having this digital version, it's the same thing. Someone may, you know, hopefully sometime down the road, people will hear of this event that we had and they're like, man, that was really cool. I wish I had that NFT. And maybe one of us can make, you know, a couple bucks as a result of finding someone who wants it, you know, or maybe we create some sort of secret chat group that the only way to get access to it is having this NFT. And then now suddenly there's some investor who wants access to this, and this becomes a lot more valuable to him, or it's worthless, you know, who knows?
Well, I just remember when everybody started to jump into the whole YouTube, you know, content creation craze back in like 2006 and 7, and they were jumping in and making all these YouTube videos, and nobody was really making any money off of it. They were getting millions of views. Monetization really wasn't there yet, you know, but people were like, oh, it's just a waste of time. So what? You could see the video. But then now, you know, they're selling Charlie Bit My Finger for, you know, $300,000, you know, and
yeah.
So,
yeah, but they're buying a piece of history. That's what they're buying.
That's exactly what it is, you know. And theoretically, if someone ever wanted to do something with Charlie Bit My Finger, like theoretically, they would have to go to that person, right? Yeah. Because they own the rights to that YouTube clip, I guess.
Well,
right?
The original YouTube clip is going to be pulled down, and only the NFT clip will be available. I don't know if it's been pulled yet, but that was the plan. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, and you know, this is still, I think a lot of it is still untested, undetermined sort of technology, right? You know, we're still at the early stages of, I mean, I would say early stages of blockchain, but even more so early stages of NFT, you know, and who knows what's gonna kind of be built on top of it. What do you think, Clay? You've done a lot. You've done a lot, kind of in the agency space with brands. What do you think the kind of impact of this sort of offering is, especially the brands?
Yeah, there's definitely brands looking to get in, like, um, not necessarily for the right reason. It's more like a lot of times advertising follows hype, you know, but like you have to kind of like look at, like, does it make sense for Carl's Jr. to do an NFT of their star? I'm not saying it does or it doesn't, but it becomes this question of like, what's the motive behind it? You know, I always look at, like, I always ask the question, why? Like, why is Carl's Jr. doing
I have a good motive for Carl's Jr. or for any fast food place.
The Happy
I-
Meal.
No, seriously, really, the Happy Meal. Seriously, because I spent the last 30 years of my life collecting McDonald's toys. I have a whole treasure box filled with McDonald's toys going all the way back to the early 90s, you know? So if they had them as NFTs, that would be really cool. And I've collected them and saved them with the intention of one day in the future opening them up and then going, oh, look at this Little Mermaid McDonald's toy from when it was released in 1990, you know, and sell that for a few $100 or whatever, you know.
Oh, that's like a great use case for it. But yeah, I know, like, there's definitely brands that are getting into it. I think there's a lot of opportunities around digital fashion. Like, that really makes sense for me. Digital wearables. We're seeing all this stuff happen within the camera on different social platforms. But the challenge is these platforms aren't decentralized. So how do you have currency within, you know, Snapchat or Instagram? So there's just like a lot of questions right now. And like you said, it's early. I think it's
Facebook tried to do a currency, but they weren't allowed. They were stopped.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Facebook Libra. Yeah. I mean, hey, you know, I think it's eventual. Like, for me, cryptocurrency is like this terrifying thing. Like, I love blockchain. I think it's a really cool technology stack, but I don't know. I didn't get in early. You know, like I own a mishmash of different coins here and there. But like, for me, it's just like I enjoy the ride rather than I guess the investing side of it. But you know, I think that being said, you know, like, blockchain is not, and NFTs are not the only part of it, right? Brands are leveraging AR a lot as well. They'll say, what was it? Project Burger?
Codename Burger.
Codename Burger.
Yeah. So it's a restaurant chain, an experiential restaurant chain. And basically, when you place an order and you buy a burger for them, you opt in to play their game. And it's on their packaging, it's through SMS, and it's got augmented reality, and it's kind of like a treasure hunt across websites. So I built all these like weird fake websites with my development partner, and I made some eighth wall AR filters for them because they wanted to have an overlay, an advertising overlay on their filter. And that's forbidden in Facebook. And I don't know if it's forbidden in Snapchat, but it's definitely forbidden on Spark AR. And you have to put the advertisement kind of connected to the face. So if you do want to put an ad, you got to like put it on the face. It's got to be inside the whole thing. It can't be overlaid. So they didn't like that. They wanted to have an overlay. And they are using it in a way where they're kind of like onboarding you into becoming these agents, these field agents. And you got to figure out these clues and these challenges as a field agent. And this is all while you're eating your burger and eating your food, having these experiences. And then in the end, I guess it's like rewards programs that they've got tied into it, and you get discounts, you get free meals, all kinds of interesting things. And I think that's really cool because a lot of LA is really a testing ground right now for these like experimental experiences around dinner, around movies, around whatever it is, you know. And what Deirdre's doing is really amazing because, you know, kids, those Gen Zers are all about LARPing. They're all about their like getting their expansion packs and V-Bucks and Fortnite to look a certain way and to act a certain way. And they love doing these like cosplay kind of events and things. And I just, it's just going to be really exciting to see how Gen Z takes off with these technologies, you know, when they become more of like a lifestyle thing and not a buzzword, you know. Pretty interesting.
Yeah, what does physical theater look like when the children have grown up going to virtual VR theater things their entire childhood, right? You know, it's I think it's exciting, and for me, it's always the hybrid of the two. Like I love taking, you know, like I my name is in the back of some Dungeons and Dragons books. Like I used to run like 100+ person like vampire LARP here in Southern California. I love that stuff, but then I love technology, you know, and I think I'm really excited to see kind of how these worlds come together, and that's what I feel like everyone on this panel is doing, is really kind of bringing these fun sort of analog things and digital things together, and kind of figuring out what comes next as a result of it.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting how the pandemic's kind of accelerated talk around the metaverse, you know, because we've really been kind of stuck behind the camera for a year, and you know, experiential kind of went away for a little bit. But yeah, it's exciting because I don't recall hearing as much talk about the metaverse in pop culture last year or the year before. But now it's like, it's definitely, you know, with NFTs and you know, the camera and machine learning and AR like reaching a point where we are gonna, you know, be avatars fairly soon. So yeah, it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, like my slogan these days, my original VR slogan is like VR is a muscle, and like you just gotta practice, you know. But now it's like I genuinely believe like virtual beings, like your avatar, it's gonna be the equivalent of like having an email address, like in the next 5 to 10 years, you know. Like, you know, you're gonna buy a cell phone, and the cell phone's gonna give you some sort of avatar of, you know, some sort of, you know, I don't know, cartoon that's going on right there. But then eventually people are going to start building their own, because they're going to be having these, you know, they're going to go to school in these like virtual spaces. They're going to, you know, and they'll be buying things for, you know, going to virtual stores instead of going, you know, to physical stores. And they're going to want to have some sort of, you know, presence of what they look like. I mean, I genuinely believe that is the future that we're heading towards, you know, and that's what all these things are really kind of, you know, this is the inertia that all these things are bringing about.
Yeah.
Kind of like when you have a gamer tag or a Twitter handle these days, right?
Yeah. You know, people are famous as a result of that name, not their real names anymore. It doesn't matter, you know.
It's interesting. I was at a job interview 10 years ago, and I made mention to my my future boss that I believe that everybody was going to have an avatar in, you know, 10 to 15 years. Everybody was going to have. He's like, nah, it's not going to happen. You're just a Second Life person. You don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, okay. Yeah.
And I think that's the weird thing is, like, you know, Dulce, you mentioned Second Life, right? And Second Life has been around, what, 2003, I think is when it
it's been around a long time. Right? Jackie's Second Life too.
Woohoo! Like, I go to Burning Man, and like we had our Burning Man festival in Altspace. We had it like 5 different virtual platforms last year, but Altspace was the main one. But there's a tiny group that did a Burning Man in Second Life so long ago, and I think it's so cool that like there are these. The more that things change, the more they stay the same, you know, or there's these cycles, right? And I think it's so incredible. You know, we can learn so much from those eras. You know, like how we did things before, surprisingly, how the ways we're doing them again. You know?
Yeah, Burning Life was amazing. It was some of the most creative stuff ever done in Second Life.
Yeah, I agree.
And the new Burning Man's coming up. I think at the end of August. So if you get a chance, you want to. I mean, it's free. You don't have to get dirty. You don't have to go to the bathroom in the porta potty. You can go to VR and Altspace or a variety of different platforms and experiences. But I mean, I think it's fun because we're starting to see these type of experiences. You know, like you know, Deidre, what Fairman Collective is doing in VR chat is very similar to like some of the worlds that are being made for some of these bigger events. You know. know, and eventually there's going to be scripted elements to it and things like that. You know, like I could see walking into, you know, a world at a festival like Burning Man and experience, you know, the gift someone gives you is getting to experience something like a virtual play, like, you know, like Welcome to Respite or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think that there's two, you know, a lot of times people are like, this is what it's like in real life. And then they try to replicate that in VR when you're like, you don't have to make it the same way as it was in real life, because now, you know, the laws of physics no longer apply. You can do all kinds of crazy things. And I think that we're going to find and explore these different art forms, and they will become their own thing, right? So right now we're working at sort of like the convergence of, you know, like, well, I'm working the convergence of film and gaming and theater, and eventually it's going to be, I think, its own thing and its own storytelling platform with its own Oscars and its own, you know, awards ceremonies and what have you. And, you know, it was like, oh my gosh, you used to have like, what, 5 channels to choose from, and you would have to just choose something to watch from those 5 channels. And, you know, that was it. But now with all the streaming, with all the different ways of storytelling, with all the different arts or experiences that you can experience, you can sort of curate your own things that you like and experience those, instead of having to just, oh, I got to get through this this Baywatch to get to the other side with my other show because I've nothing else on, right? So I think it's, you know, we're living at such a time that's beautiful and unfolding, and it's exciting to see where it'll go.
I described that exact scenario to my sons the other day because they were doing exactly that, curating what they were watching. Like they had their whole like list of everything that they were going to watch, from Hulu to Disney Plus to YouTube and stuff. And I was like, man, I used to be the remote control for my brothers. I would sit there and turn the dial when it was a commercial on one channel. I had to turn it to the other channel. So they were like, that sounds horrible. And then you couldn't pick it either. It was whatever was programmed. Yeah, they have no idea what the pain was like.
I mean, there's so much content now, right? You know, like that. I think that's one of the exciting things about, you know, social media, portable computing, things like VR, is that you are able to find a captive audience a lot easier into whatever you're interested in. You know, no longer do you have to find some sort of concept that is going to be universally accepted so you can get it on ABC, you know, evening programming. You can find some weird, complicated niche thing that you're really into. And if you can find like a dozen people who are into it, as an artist, you can conceivably create that art and, you know, cater to that community and even build that community and grow it, you know?
Yeah, that's what's happening right now. I mean, like, look at Lil Nas X. I mean, that's how he started. He started out as a stan of Nicki Minaj on her YouTube, making comments, and then he built his following up and made music. And he's super into AR, VR, and immersive technologies, and uses it a lot in his music videos, and has a huge following. So it's possible. It's very possible.
Yeah, this is exciting. Well, we're getting to the midway point. We're getting at about an hour. So why don't we open this up to a Q&A? What questions do you have out in the audience that you'd like us to talk about? Feel free to just post in the channel.
Marlon, Looking Glass.
Yeah. I think
well, I was gonna say, you know, for like digital identity, you know, I've learned that I don't have to put makeup on anymore to come into these things, because I can just wear filters, you know. And I think being able to like change my face to be whatever I want it to be, you know, with these filters, I think it's just a really cool thing. Like when the Snapchat comes into play, like being able to set your own standard filter that everybody sees you in that way, you know, I think is going to be a cool thing. Or just, you know, you can do whatever you want and you can look at people however you want to look at them. But I think filters to me is just so game changing. As far as like, yeah.
Is that beautiful color lipstick? Is that
this
AR?
is a filter. Yeah, this is AR.
No. Oh,
yeah,
it's
glasses.
wow.
Yeah, and I can change, like, you know, here's another makeup. Here's another makeup. Here's a makeup set, and like I can change it to different
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's like when Instagram came on the scene, right? People are like, how do you take those photos? You're like, oh, I don't really take those photos. I just
Yeah,
apply this thing to
put the filter on.
All right, we got some
Okay,
good
well,
questions in the chat. Sheridan, you want to ask your question?
Yep, very good. Okay, I'm a screenwriter, urban planner, and I'm fascinated by theater because it's more like it's three-dimensional, like urban planning and VR. And we view in urban planning, location is place, city, and then the drama is theater. So it's kind of a convergence of those. Plus, you have gaming now, which is very interactive too. And I'm really fascinated by how all of you see this convergence happening, because I see it happening now. That you can take any place, both scanned in or imaginary, and create any drama you want. So, what does this world look like? I mean, I'd like to hear about some of the really cool far out ideas too.
Yeah, I keep on hearing the term post-reality, and it's kind of a little bit hard to wrap your head around, what does it mean like after reality? And I think like what you're talking about, machine learning and AR and immersive tech is going to get so real that real is really going to be so easy to replicate, and being able to sort of decipher real from fake. There's going to be like a lot of like, it's going to really blur the boundaries between reality and post reality. So yeah, it's pretty wild to picture that concept.
Yeah, definitely. At the company I work for, Pinscreen, we specialize in AI synthesized media. That is like a really complicated term that means to a lot of people deepfakes. Because the moment you use that term deepfakes, man, people like recoil in horror. Like, what are you going to make me do? What are you going to make me say? And I think that the exciting thing about what we're doing, in addition to being able to do this for VFX, being able to do this for like brand experiences and things like that, is also that we are working hard to be able to detect that as well. Because it is an ever escalating process, right? The moment you create a great deepfake, you've got to build technology to detect it. And the moment you build technology to detect it, you figure out a way to beat it. And it's an endless escalation. But I mean, some of us have to be thinking about those things so that ideally the quality of the deepfake doesn't get so point that we no longer can trust media. But I think at the same time there's going to be some sort of kind of shift. Like we heard tales of middle America believing anything they listen to, anything they see on the internet and things like that. And I think that these sort of like things, these sort of happenings, like force you to become a better educated media consumer, and I think that is a rising tide that's good for everyone.
Absolutely.
Charlie, you want to ask your question?
Yeah, sure. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, great. Excellent. Thank you. So I'm also interested in the time machine concept and AR tourism.
Mhm.
And what is of course COVID sort of threw a little water on that when you're working on something where people actually have to stand in front of actual buildings and interact with real life. But the other thing that came up to mind is, we were designing things for mobile, since that's what the device people own. And now that things like spectacles have come along and it's clearly a better experience. I guess my question is like, is that just an impossible dream? Is that like 5 years down the road to design something for like masses of people?
Okay, I'm going to talk about it from my perspective, and my perspective, I say no, because I push WebXR, and right now everybody is setting the standard for WebXR. And when I say everybody, I mean every company in existence that has anything to do with emerging technology of virtual reality and augmented reality is participating in the WebXR group, and they're giving feedback and they're helping standardize things. So everybody's got a representation there. So I feel like because of that, because that foundation, that groundwork is being laid out on the web so tightly with all the companies, and they all kind of have the same standardization, except for Apple. They've got their own thing going on, but they understand what's happening, and they're kind of working with the group as well to make sure that their devices also work with the browsers and these experiences. The web is where it's all going. The web is going to be the pipeline. The web is going to be the highway. It's going to be where all the content is delivered to all these devices. So because that foundation is being thought of in detail right now, once glasses come into play, it's going to be real easy for this legacy content that's already been made for mobile devices on the web to then be displayed in the headsets. And the reason why I say that is because I work with the Magic Leap headset and I work with the Unreal headset, and I can see all of my WebXR stuff in both of those headsets perfectly right now. So because I can see them perfectly right now, it just tells me that once it becomes more mainstream, it's just going to be integrated seamlessly. And I also feel Apple's thinking in this way too, because when I watched their developer conference last month, everything that was augmented reality and virtual reality was just a given. It was a given. This is how it's going to work. You're going to be able to use your native camera to capture 3D objects with your camera that you can then turn into virtual goods and share them through FaceTime. And FaceTime is going to have augmented reality filters. And they didn't even use the words augmented reality or virtual or volumetric or scanning. They didn't use any of that. They just said, capture your real life into, bring it in and share it with your friends and use filters. And, so it's all going to be lifestyle, and they're already thinking about it.
Yeah. Dulce, I think you hit on something really huge. Like what Snap's doing great, what Apple's doing great is they're not making a big deal about the terminology.
Yeah.
They're focusing on you having an experience and getting accustomed to using those tools without necessarily realizing that you're using augmented reality, that you're using blockchain and AI, for example.
Yeah. I heard Evan talk about it, and he kind of describes spectacles as a real long game. So like thinking all the way, 10 years out before we're actually seeing full AR happen, which is kind of like somewhat like I want it to happen sooner. But I think some of the first steps, and you mentioned virtual tourism, I think like some of the first steps is really persistent AR in location. And we're seeing that happen, with local lenses. There's an area in London where it's fully, shared reality anchored, to the physical space. But it's still, I feel like, persistence is still like at least a few years away. We're seeing it start to happen, but as persistent AR happens, we will be able to go to the La Brea tar pits, and we'll be able to go here, and we'll start to experience that digital overlay first inside of the phone. And then, something that was mentioned was we'll have all the content, and then that will just be ported over to another form of, wearable.
DJ, there's a question for you in the chat. Nelly, would you like to ask it?
Yes, I can ask it. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, so I would be interested to hear from you about the process, the artistic process that you go through when you create for VR or AR, and in what point you kind of understand what the budget is, or how and when do you approach technologists, and do you need them to be your friends, or are you going to a company and offering them and they just say, yeah, sure, we'll do it for free?
It's very much like theater, in my opinion. You could go a grant, direction and create a proposal, submit it for a grant. You could approach, a technology company. That will be very, very expensive. In a lot of ways, it's not so different from theater in that you're just switching out like your set designer for somebody who like builds in Unity, and your costume designer for an avatar creator. I started working with some guys who, Brian, it was like, I know enough about Unity to build a world in VR chat. And Finding Pandora X was built in VR chat, which gave us the inspirations. We stand on the shoulders of giants. And so from her inspiration, he built a Unity world, uploaded it to VR chat. We did a show. you don't even have to go that far. You can start with worlds that are already built. Like you could even go into like something as easy as alt space and find a world and create a show around that world. And then the world building tools in alt space are easier. So you could start building worlds in there if you wanted to. The way that we sort of built our team was I would hang out in VR chat with some communities and world builders, because there's a bunch of world builders in there and that's all they do. They build worlds, then they show them off. And I met people and I talked about what we were doing and they were excited and they love theater and they wanted to be a part of it. And the ones that seemed like they would be a good fit for the team, we had talked to them and then we started working with them. And so far it's been really great. It's been a lot less expensive than trying to do something in real life, because there aren't insurance costs, there aren't permit costs, there aren't rental costs. There's a lot of costs associated with, in real life theater that you don't have in VR. Plus, you don't have to throw the set away or clear the set when you're finished with the show. You can just leave it there and come back to it in a month or 2 months or in a year. So or you can run the same show at the same time with different sets of actors. So there's just a lot of benefits to it. But yeah, finding a team that wants to do something with you is probably where I would start.
I would add to that. So I'm currently teaching 15 college students on how to create AR as a part of a program with LACMA. And all the tools that we specify in the course are Blender and Lens Studio, or you could do Blender and Spark AR and start creating AR filters, world filters, all that stuff. So it's extremely accessible. And I think that that's like something really exciting for people that might not have opportunities to have a large team, or, don't have the money to buy like Maya or whatever. You can download Blender for free and you can get Lens Studio or Spark and start playing with creating augmented reality. And then if you need a team, you can always kind of like scale it up from there, but you can start with yourself.
I can add to that. There's some groups on Facebook and on Twitter that have huge Spark AR and Snap Lens community. And there's quite a few people in there that have tutorials and master classes and videos that they've made, and they share their process and pipeline all the time. Or they'll make like a patch and they'll put it on GitHub and they'll share it out, or they come up with like different camera color filters that they call LUTs, and they share those out too. Yeah.
Yeah, and our builder uses Unity, and a lot of times he'll buy a pack off of the asset store and he'll use that. So he's not building from scratch. And I think Unity is free to download and use and build with. And then I think if it gets to a certain point,
it's the royalty. It all depends on what you want to do with the project. If you're just doing it for hobby, you can use most of that stuff. But if you start selling it for commerce, then you have to go into the rights and the royalties and things. Yeah.
Yes, fair enough. So you can get started at a relatively inexpensive price and teach yourself slowly as you start to build it.
Fantastic. And then my man Marlon, I see you're in the audience. You wanna ask you a question about 3D?
Hey everyone, Marlon here. I'm over at Looking Glass Factor. We have a holographic display, and I think for any artists, digital artists, NFT maker, definitely I think the application is there for a headset-free experience. My question is really kind of for the media makers, if we feel that 3D is like a natural progression, media making and design. A lot of the content that we're seeing is sometimes simply made with a portrait mode on an iPhone. And people are doing all sorts of really interesting things with even the most simplest of tools. So I'm curious to know how you feel about just 3D as part of that, or if that's not it necessarily. Just really curious to hear.
Can you clarify just what you mean by 3D as part of that?
Yeah, so as let's take, for example, a graphic designer or an artist that is used to making 2D media. The leap to 3D for a lot of us presents, learning new tools, learning curves, both in photography, filmmaking, and design, really. Taking into consideration like all of the things that we know about AR and spatial computing, but I'm curious to know if this is an imperative for all of these different crafts to embrace is 3D. That's kind of my question.
I think 3D content creation is huge, and tools like Blender are free and they're accessible. There's also massive libraries within Sketchfab, and if you look at Unreal, the Quixel Mega Scan library is like huge. So like there's so much 3D content out there that you can actually get started not making 3D. Also, just to clarify, like inside of AR, you can lay out 2D things in space. So you really don't need to like have 3D skills. You can combine photography together. You're just thinking about it in a different way.
I think the tools are cheaper and easier to use these days too. Like it's really come a long way in the last like few years.
Yeah, the open source revolution, right? Like I think of like every major like Adobe product or anything like that. There is some sort of rudimentary open source version that can, you need to cut videos. You don't necessarily need Premiere. You can find something that will allow you to, very rudimentary cut things together. Actually, Marlon, I want to piggyback on kind of what you're doing with Looking Glass. Like,
yeah, I wanted to say something about him. And
yeah, for me, it's like to bring it back to NFTs, Pinguino. Like, how do you look at your NFTs? Like, I think of like the Looking Glass display as like this great opportunity to be able to show off, some of your 3D options, stuff like that. How are folks showcasing their NFTs, in their possession?
I know that there's some mobile apps out there that people use to look at their NFTs, but I think most people just go to the websites, the marketplaces, and look at their inventory and their friends' inventories that way. And you see people sharing them on TikTok and stuff. I know there's also a couple of products that are like very, very expensive digital picture frames where you can display your NFTs. But there needs to be more options like that that are cheaper for people to have.
Well, just having a Looking Glass physical 3D version somewhere and then tying it in a metaversal way through geo-positioning with an NFT, I think can open up so much, like can really change the game in some ways, especially like for virtual goods and for brands.
Yeah.
Having these kind of like holographic displays in the real space, but then they're also tied to like a metaversal space, and then they're tied to an NFT. It's kind of cool. If I could, like, let's say if I go into Macy's and they have like the holographic dress there, it's not, you can't, it's like a pre-order dress, right? And I order it and I can see it there, and I can go into the website. I can also see it there in augmented reality on me, and then if I buy it, then I get a little 3D version of it that I can dress my avatar with, like that kind of thing. I think all of that's just really cool.
Yeah, Dulce, I think you hit on something big. Like in the future, it's going to be that you buy the car, you also get the car in the metaverse, all that.
Yeah,
I think
you get
that's
it everywhere.
a huge opportunity for e-commerce or for commerce in general.
I do really like the idea of using NFTs as a way to pre-order something too, like your digital dress, and that's how you can claim it. Like maybe it could work with something like a Kickstarter where you don't see the product for a couple of years, but you get to use it virtually for a couple of years.
Very cool. We're getting to the top of the hour, so why don't we close this out, everyone? Why don't we kind of tell the audience how to track you down, Pinguino? Why don't you start?
I'm on Twitter as @Pinguino, PINGUINO, or pinguinocob.com.
Dulce?
I'm Dulce303 everywhere. So just Dulce, DULCE 303, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, everywhere.
Nice. Deirdre?
Hello, I'm Deirdre V. Lyons. I had to put the V in there because Deirdre Lyons is a PhD person, and that's not me. So if you look for deirdrevylyons.com, they'll see my almost my halfway finished website. And if you look for Deirdre Lyons on I think Instagram, Twitch, and Facebook, you should find me. You'll find me. reach out, say hi, send me an Instagram messenger or something.
And Clay?
I'm World Space on Instagram, and I'll place it in chat so people have it, and definitely say hi. It'll be fun to hear from people.
And I'm at Ray Moscow on pretty much most things. Track me down on LinkedIn as well. Susan, how do we find you?
How do you find me? SusanOslin.com or Susan Oslin on LinkedIn. Usually Susan Oslin in most places. Can I say something about our next event?
Indeed. Let's talk about the next one.
Okay. Well, I'm inspired to do an in-person event for September. And but we'll definitely figure out a way to have it be hybrid, so people that can't make it in person can come. I'm not promising, that's just my thoughts right now tonight. And then we're going to be talking about AR and branding and shopping and, fashion.
Fantastic.
Commerce. Yeah.
So keep an eye out for that. We'll I mentioned that we're giving away the NFT. So the email that you got the Zoom details from, we will send with an kind of an instructional explanation of how to join Wax, and also we'll create a form that you'll be able to fill out to give us your Wax address, and then hopefully by the end of the week, early next week, we'll do the drop, and everyone will get their NFTs.
Cool.
So you are here. You got an NFT. How exciting is that?
I love that. Thank you for hooking that up. I love that. I love that my first one is from this. This is awesome.
Indeed. Well, thanks for everyone. Thanks for coming out, for supporting us, AWE Nite here in Los Angeles. We'll see you in 2 months. See you then.
Take care, everybody.